Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to extend this drain here, this white pipe. We're going to extend it all the way out to the back lane. And then after that's all done, I'm going to build my form here, scrape out all this gravel, and I'm going to finish, I'm going to do one more of these concrete slabs and put it here. I have leftover bags from when I did the garage back in November in the winter time. I'm not going to return it, and what I've done here is I've been adding gravel to take up the difference in the elevation. The problem with the gravel is it's getting compressed and it's washing away. So this is a temporary fix, but now that I have the material to fix this properly, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to address the drain. So our drain is here. So our drain is sloping down towards the back lane. So the first thing, guys, is the end over here has to be lower than this. Otherwise, this is not going to work. This is a gravity fed system. So this is, if you don't have elevation or height, this is not going to work. So we have our downspout here, and then it goes out towards the fence. So what's been happening over the last few years is all this water that's been collecting has been running down here, and it's been eroding away the slab here. This is why you can see that this is all here is away. If we step back, you can see here we have gravel, and this has all been washing away. So to eliminate from this happening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a Y in here. We'll pick up our downspout, we'll come out, we'll offset around the rock, and we'll take it all the way out. So once this is done, the pipe is going to act as a form on the one side, and then later on what I'm going to do is we'll build the form here. We're going to scrape this out and then pour concrete. So what I'll do now is go over material and tools. Alright, so this is our material. We have our fittings here. So we have a Y. This is a 45. This is a 22. A 22 is half of a 45. Put two of these together and you'll get the same angle as this. This is our glue. This is one step cement. I have one length of pipe here. This is 10 feet long. I couldn't fit the whole thing in the car. That's why I cut it in half. We've got our 2x4s. That's going to be our form. And then I've got one bag of concrete. I have another 17 bags ready to go, but I'm not going to carry it all out here just for the demonstration of material. So guys, what I'll do is I'll go over the fittings a little more closely for you, and then after that we will look at tools. Alright, so these are our fittings closer out. So this is a 4-inch PVC Y. As far as I know, PVC is white. You can get a gray type of PVC that is it's a different type of material. It has a smoke rating, something for heat, but this is just regular PVC. So we have a 4-inch Y. This is a 4-inch 45. This is a regular 45. This is a 4-inch street or a fitting 45. So you have the hub on this side, and then you have the street or the fitting side. So the idea of the street side is it'll fit in, and then you'll have a smaller fitting allowance. Next, what we have here, this is a 22. So if you put two of these together, you're going to get one of these 45s. So you can see how you have a slight gap on the right on the 22. It's actually a 22.5 degree. We just call it a 22 in the trade. This is our glue. So this is PVC cement. This is a one-step. It has a primer already mixed into it. I believe anything over 4-inch pipe, you need a two-step. You need a primer and a glue. So guys, with these fittings, these will allow you to do different things. So what I will show you really quickly is something called fitting allowance, just so you have an idea of how you can use your fittings to your advantage. Alright, so these are our fittings. So we have our Y and our 45. These are tight together, there's no space. So from center to center, our fitting allowance is 7 3/4. Sorry, it's 7 3/8. So that means the center between here and here, that is the spacing, 7 3/8. So if this is too much, which it will be for where I place my Y in between the the 4x4 post on the ground and where the pipe comes through, what we can do is use what we call a fitting 45. Okay, so there's our fitting 45. So this is right around, I would say, 6 3/8. So if you ever need help, you can mark it right in the middle. But by doing this, this is going to be 1 inch smaller. This is what we call fitting allowance. Guys, fitting allowance matters for everything. You need to know how much space you need to get your fittings in. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems. So I will show you one last thing before we get started on this job. Alright, so I've mocked up two 45s. This is a regular 45. This is a fitting or a street 45. It doesn't matter. It's just what I'm using here. So one thing that you're going to need to know if you're going to consistently do piping is you need to know your fitting allowance. So you have something called end to center. So you have your end here, the very back of the hub. This is where the end of the pipe is going to be, and this is your center. So if you measure off like this, our end to center is about 4 3/4, maybe 4 5/8. So if you're going to hit a hole going this way, you know if you have this particular setup here that you need to be 4 5/8 back on this side for your pipe to hit this directly the way it is. So when you know your fitting allowance, the numbers off the top of your head, you'll be able to have a line here, measure whatever you need to back, 4 5/8 in this case, cut your end of the pipe, have your two fittings tight together like this, and off you go. This is what guys in plumbing or pipe fitting, you need to know what we call fitting allowance. If you don't learn your fitting allowance, then you will never survive from a trade perspective. Alright, so this is the tools that we need for this job. We have the wheelbarrow, our landscaping tools, shovel, hoe, pickaxe, our watering jug for when we pour concrete, respirator, that'll be also for when we pour concrete, just for the concrete dust. If you don't have a respirator, a dust mask will do. Cordless kit. So we got grinder, we have sawzall, impact, hand tools, pouches here, increment level, and then the hacksaw. For our form, we will have the skill saw, 4-foot level, and an extension cord. As far as I can tell right now, these are the tools I need to do this job. So guys, once this job is over, we will do a breakdown and review. Okay, so we have our level on our pipe. So guys, the first thing that you always need to do when you're doing drainage is, because you need a certain amount of slope, pitch, or elevation, whatever you want to call it, you need to know how much room you have to work with. So our level right now, in the middle, the bubble is saying it's a 1/2 inch per foot. So I have more than enough grade to make it to the very end. So what I'm going to do is, as we hit this rock, when I do my offset, I'm going to change it to an 1/8 inch per foot, and then for the rest of the way it'll be an 1/8 inch per foot. The more grade you have, the more volume of water you can actually pick up, because it'll drain out faster. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to clear out this whole area all the way up to here. We're going to expose the pipe, and then we're going to grab our fittings, and then we're going to see where we can put our Y and what everything is going to look like. So your layout, once again, is the most important part of your job. If you don't think 5 steps ahead, then you can really get yourself into trouble later on. Alright, so this is the pipe dugout. So you see how the pipe is coming off on an angle. If you want to use this this post as being straight, so this is how it's coming off. So what I need to take into consideration here is we have a root here. That's not going to be a problem. We have this here. Really, I don't see any issues with having to dig out anymore. So I have our Y and our fitting 45 mocked up here, and this is what I mean by fitting allowance. Down here you see it's obviously not going to work, so it needs to be up here. Even this is pretty close, but now with the Y having at least an idea of where it's going to be, Now the question I have to ask myself is, do I have the fitting allowance back and forth here? So this is the marks of where the 45 is going to go. So it'll look like that. So what I need to do now is make sure that the end of the hub, so this mark here, that there's enough space to get two 45s in between the wall and the 45 and the Y. Alright, so it looks like it's going to fit. So you see the end of the hub here, and then this is the end of our line. So what I'll do now is I will make a mark, cut through this. Guys, one thing about cutting pipe for PVC, you can't cut 3/4 of the way through it and then snap it off. You're gonna get a jagged edge. So with PVC pipe, with this white pipe, you need to cut all the way through it. So what you need to do is either, if you're gonna cut with the hacksaw, is go all the way around, expose all the way around, or in this case here, because I have a Sawzall, I'm just going to have the Sawzall cut through it. But with this pipe, you need to cut all the way through it. Don't cut most of the way and then try snapping it off, because that's not gonna work. With ABS it's fine, but here it won't work. All right, so the line is going to be the top of the Y. That's where it'll be. So I'll take the Sawzall now and I'll cut off the pipe. Okay, as usual, put on glasses, put in some earplugs. You see all the debris in the pipe. So these are the holes. They sit at the very bottom. This is called a perforated pipe. So the water's supposed to come in through the holes, and then it goes down the pipe. So this is considered a weeping tile or a perimeter drain, also known as perforated pipe. Alright, so where the Y is going to sit, we're going to have to clean this out a little bit. We need to clean this out here, this and here, because we need to get our brush all the way around. So this is what I'm saying, even with the hacksaw, you need to dig around. Okay, so make sure that you get the first bit of the pipe exposed. I have roots here. That I don't need to do anything with. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to dry fit the Y to see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what our Y looks like dry fit on. So there's almost no space to between the fitting and the piece of wood. So what's gonna happen here is I actually have to now prefab this, because if I just glue the Y in, I'll never be able to get this in without cutting into this. So I will show you guys how you can prefab this so it's ready to go, and all you do is spin it into place. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to prefab our fittings. So first thing is we're going to check our grade here, which we have plenty. And then we're also going to check our slope for the end of the pipe. So when the bubble's in the middle, this is when the pipe is going to be level based on the very edge of this hub. So I don't want so much slope, I don't want so much grade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the fitting until I'm in the spot I want to be. So even right there is fine. So now what I'm going to do is mark the 45 with a pencil, mark the same lines. So when I glue this together, I want my two lines to line up, and then this will be prefabbed. It'll be in the right spot. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll glue our fittings. Okay, so make sure you always check all the way around. Make sure you got glue everywhere. And then what we're going to do is line up our marks. And be sure to twist as you go in. Okay, so our marks are all lined up. What we'll do now is really quickly go look, make sure that this is fine, because if we have to twist this and mimic it, now is the time to do it before the glue dries. Okay, we look from a distance. Bubble is high. And then we'll check the end. So that would be level, so we have lots of grade, so that means the pipe is now pointing upwards. So what I'll do is I'll grab the 245s and then we're gonna see where it needs to be. So one thing we have to take into consideration right now is our downspout, because I want to have my 245s right below my downspout. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from here to the center, and then I'm going to move that mark down here so I can line up my 45, my pipe coming up and my downspout coming down. Alright, so what we can do now, we have this glued in, we have a mark for where our downspout's going to be. You can do something called rolling your 45s. It's when you butt it up to the two together to get the angle, and then what you can do is roll your 45s back and forth so your pipe at the top is going to go up straight. Now the level is perfectly level both ways. So what you're essentially doing here is you're taking it and you're going to turn it back and forth with the level at the top until you have it all where they need to be, and then you make marks on your hub. Now guys, this is only a rough thing. When you actually glue it, your marks might be off a little bit. So I already see that because we have such a tight space here, what I need to do is I will glue my bottom piece on first, and then when I figure out where my top piece is going to be, I'm going to try to jam it in. But we'll figure this out as soon as we get this bottom part all done. Alright, so what I did is I cut a 6-inch piece. So what I'm going to do is extend the line here onto our pipe. That way I know that this is the position for this 45, and then when we put our next 45 on, this will now be nice and plumb. So guys, when you're doing your gluing, the hub here is 1.5 inches. When you glue your pipes, there's no point in gluing the first 6 inches of the pipe. So when you're gluing your pipe, just go to the very edge right there. If you just glue here all the way up to the very edge, you'll just have a little bit that comes out the top, and it'll be a nice clean joint. And that's what you see with these other ones are too. Aesthetics, they matter. Let's make our work look good. Alright, so our bottom piece here is now glued in. So when you check with your top 45, this is the time to move this back and forth. So the bottom is going to move your left to right, and then your top is going to move your front to back. So right there, the pipe is going up nice and plumb. So I missed a little bit from the line. Well, I didn't really have a choice, base I had to work with, so the line on the right is the center of the pipe. The line on the left is the center of our downspout coming down. So they don't quite line up. It looks like to be about 1.5 inches off. So what I'll do is I'll glue our fitting on, and then what we'll do is we'll just move our downspout so they're gonna hit each other. With this much space to do this job, I really didn't have much to work with. I would have had to been very lucky to hit it bang on, but back here in the garage, no one's going to see anyway. So you can see how that is the center, and this is the center of the fitting. So what I'll do is I'll just move the downspout into position so the two hit each other. And then the downspout coming down is there. So actually it looks like it would straighten the downspout out a little bit more, but what I'll do is later on, after I finish piping, we'll get this all taken care of. So that's what we have here. So I'm now going to clean all of this out, and then I'm going to take my one short piece of pipe, throw it on, and we'll try to get an idea of what our 22 is going to look like. Alright, so here we are dug out. We have our Y there. We have our rock here and our post here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down and go around it like this. So one thing that you can do to help you visualize is throw a piece of pipe, just dry fit it in, and now you can see how the two run together. Now you can also see how crooked the pipe was coming out from the side of the garage. So with this in mind, now I'll grab my 22, look at it at both sides and see where this needs to be. Again, just mark the block and we should be done. And that gives you an idea on how I got to cut the block and then go around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish doing the piping now on my own. I've already shown you guys the technical part, so this will be really quick and simple. Okay, so this is our finished drain. I've backfilled it. So our perforated pipe comes down into our Y, come up. I haven't done it yet, but I will finish the downspout coming into our Y. We come over, this is all solid pipe. So we're gonna come over, 22 offset, and out. This will now prevent all of this from washing away in the future because the downspout's been diverted, and then anything else, when the pipe ended here, this was all washing away in this area as well. So this will now take everything straight out to the backlane. I am disappointed that I wound up being a little bit short. I do have a few extra pieces of pipe, so I may finish this off. We'll see what it looks like when we finish pouring our concrete. But our plumbing now is all done, so the next step will be to start building the form for our slab of concrete.